Good evening, Nancy. Good
Good
morning.
evening. Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
Happy
Ivan.
Tikoy!
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And good evening to everybody watching on the live stream and watching on the replay here in Manila and Houston, Texas with Nancy. We have a very special guest, our really good friend, Ivan Mandi, known as Binondo Food Walks. And, we'll talk to him about, actually, Nancy, hindi ko alam yung origin story nito ni Ivan eh. That's why I'm also excited. Matagal na kami magkaibigan yan. I'm excited. Paano ba nagsimula si Mr. Ivan Mandi? Very synonymous na yung name niya with Binondo. So, and
Yes.
of course, Happy New Year, Happy Chinese New Year. And we'll talk to him about the Chinese New Year also and Binondo. So,
Gutom na ako!
Oo nga, my name is Anton Diaz, founder of Our Awesome Planet. Together with Nancy Reyes Lumen, we're awesome live with the Ivan Mandi. Can you do a short Ivan!
Hello, hello.
Sa New Year.
Happy Chinese New Year. Sana mabuti.
How was
okay
the
pa
New
naman.
Year? How was the celebration? Maraming tao?
Well, here in Manila, not so much. Medyo matamlay actually this year because at least in Chinatown, the city government banned festivities kasi. Parang sa Nazareno. So, it was a little bit more quiet than usual.
Oh, okay. Alright.
Yes,
Pero
but
better than last year, I heard. Kasi yung friend, ang 168, andyan pa rin. I miss
Oo
that.
naman. Hindi naman siya mawawala. But like the festivities kasi were toned down. Like there were no dragon dances, ganyan. Although sabi ng mga friends ko, marami pa ring tao pumunta sa Ongpin. I mean, I didn't go, but they did. Alam mo na, I mean, Chinese New Year is always a feel-good thing, di ba? I mean, it's one break from your daily grind na, alam mo yon, kain ka lang or tumingin ka lang ng mga kung ano-ano pampaswerte dyan. Para sa iba, masaya na yun eh.
Actually, that word, paswerte, yun eh.
Yes. Gusto natin lahat yan, di ba? Oo.
Alright, so to kick our discussion, to kick off our discussion, Ivan, maybe can you do a short introduction of paano ba nagsimula si Ivan Mandi? Ano bang background ni Ivan Mandi? For everybody to have a background. I'm not sure if everybody knows your background. Paano ba nagsimula? Bago ka pa naging Binondo Food Walk. Bago ka naging Binondo Food Walk.
Well,
but before that, Ivan, are you pure Chinese? Kasi you don't look.
No, I already had blood transfusion. So, nasalinan na. No, but percentage-wise, I mean, I don't really quantify, but I'm sort of partly mixed heritage because, well, my dad, my lolo's father's side, the Angkong side, is originally from China. My lolo came here during the time of Quezon, 1930s. But my mother's side naman, they're Chinese Kapampangan. So, yeah, we also have roots in Mabalacat and Tarlac. Yeah. So my mother's side actually speak Kapampangan as well. Yes. Chinese, Tagalog. So lahat na. Yon. But I grew up in Binondo. So back to Anton's question. I grew up in Binondo for 8 years, and we moved out when I was 8 years old. So I guess living in a very old place really influenced me in a lot of ways. Kasi parang bata pa lang, you don't live in a gated community. You live in an actual old neighborhood, right? So I would go around the district, running around. My parents were pretty lax. Uh, and then, I would see a lot of these old houses because, we have a lot of these bahay na batos in Binondo.
Yeah.
So somehow I sort of got attracted to them, and that's when I started reading on heritage, reading about the history of our city, ganyan. And so eventually I discovered cultural work. I started doing volunteer work for museums. In particular, my first museum was the Bahay Chinoy Museum in Intramuros, which
Mm.
basically talked about the heritage of our community, which is the Chinoy community. And then from there, I volunteered for about a decade, which I loved doing museum work, museum guiding. But you can only volunteer for so much in your life, right? At the end of the day, you need to pay bills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So eventually, I started doing these tours professionally. Medyo magkasabay kami ni Carlos Celdran. Nauna lang siya ng ilang buwan. Um, and then we started our outfit called Old Manila Walks,
Mm-hmm.
which in 2005. And we were doing very specific heritage themed tours within the Old Manila area. So that includes Intramuros, San Miguel. We even have a tour of the Chinese cemetery, which some people found peculiar, but it's very fascinating. But the one tour that really, I guess, put us there was the Binondo food walk, which I think was probably the first uh, professional culinary cultural tour of that area. Yeah, so we've been running it since 2005. Uh, we're still running it today after 17 years, although it's not as often as we would like because of the pandemic. So that's my life story, Anton.
But when you say you distinguish between culinary and cultural. So
Mhm.
in the food walk, meron talagang cultural trivia involved in the food
Yes. Yes.
restaurant.
Well, yes.
Okay.
Well, Nancy, ganito yan. The Binondo tour, it's really more of a cultural tour with food because it's a historical tour because the whole idea of that tour was to get people to know and appreciate the heritage of the place. And that includes old buildings, streets,
Yeah.
community, social history. But at one point, it evolved to become a food tour because food is such an easy thing to get people to try, right? And that's why eventually it early on, no, it evolved into a sort of a culinary tour where we were able to integrate all of the things that I mentioned with the food that was found in the place. Yon. So, when people think it's a culinary tour, it is, no? But we'd like to think of it first and foremost as a historical, cultural tour talaga,
Okay.
na may pagkain.
Yeah. Pati yung architecture, di ba? Grabe.
Yes, yes. Actually,
Very
yung architecture nga medyo nabawasan siya because, we found out that people were more into the food than the architecture.
yeah.
Oo, mas easy sell ang food, 'di ba?
Ah,
But yung architecture talaga is very important kasi nga heritage, 'di ba?
mm-hmm.
'Yon.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything
So
else?
Ivan, ano ang culinary DNA ni Ivan Mandy? More Chinese ba? More Kapampangan? Or ano?
Mm. Ano 'yan, Miss Universe na question 'yan,
Pero teka
Ah,
muna, hindi. I'll make it more complicated. Is it
okay.
Mandarin, Hokkien, Cantonese? What is it?
Ah, well, I think my culinary DNA is very Manileño.
Okay.
Um,
Mm.
because it's not easy for me to distinguish, like, do you like Filipino food better or Chinese food better? There are certain days that I like Chinese food better, and there are certain days that I like local food, non-Chinese, like Filipino food. But that's not the only thing that I eat, right? Although I would say that if you're gonna categorize, the cuisines that I love, I mean, that's part of my DNA. It would include um, Chinese, of course, Filipino, no, and then things that I like Spanish food or um, Mediterranean food in general. I appreciate. So that includes, Greek or Spanish or Italian and Southeast Asian. No, I'm really crazy with with Thai, with Malaysian, with Singaporean and Vietnamese cuisine. Regionally, no, I like Bicol food, okay, and I also like
Ah,
Maranao food. So,
Oh, wow.
which is in Quiapo, meron akong ano doon, pinupuntahan.
Mm,
I mean, if
mhm.
I can. And then
Yeah.
Kapampangan, because we grew up eating Kapampangan fare in Tarlac as well. Yun. So, it's a very mixed I guess preference, owing to my personal I guess heritage na rin, no, because of the background of my family.
So you speak Chinese
I
purely.
no, my first language is Tagalog.
Okay.
Chinese I can speak Hokkien, I can speak Mandarin.
Uh-huh.
Yes, I speak four languages and
Wow.
English and Tagalog. Kapampangan medyo ano lang, hilaw. Because we never learned it because you grew up in the city.
Okay.
okay.
Yan.
And I wanted to talk about the Binondo Food Walk. I remember kasi we saw you when you founded it in 2005, no, Kenny? And that's
Mm,
when everything started, di ba? What was the secret to the success of that Binondo Food Walk? Ano ba yung nagustuhan ng mga tao?
yeah.
Particularly with the food din. Kasi maraming
Right.
aspect. A lot of people can do their parang own tour naman ng Binondo eh. But
Yeah.
still, you were very successful in doing this. Ano ba
Yeah.
nangyari at the start?
Yeah. Sisingit ko lang bago ko isagot yan, no. Nancy, almost sabay kami ni Anton nagsimula. When I was starting the food tours, he was starting our Awesome Planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we even had a discussion once in the car of, how because he was basically transitioning from corporate life to a life of blogging,
Oo.
and so we had mga sessions na nag-uusap kami. Ano bang ganito, ganyan, ganito, ganyan. Anyways, I've also seen Anton grow as he had seen me over the last 15 years. Okay, so back to your question, what was our secret ingredient? Um, I think maybe it was because it showed, I mean, the whole experience, which is really the whole product of um of experiencing, Chinatown, really showed in the tour. No, because I really like doing it. And so uh first and foremost, I grew up there. Okay, so I sort of have an insider um a perspective of the place, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's there. We discussed that. I mean, in a very fun and a very diplomatic way, of
Yeah.
course. Another thing is that, uh, I before I started doing tours, I was already into all of this heritage. So it was inherent for me to know the heritage of the community, of the district, of the place. So it's not like yung iba na they just wanted to do a tour and then gumawa sila kaagad. Yung sa akin, I guess, it was already there. It was very natural, no? And that showed a lot in the whole experience of the tour. Uh, I guess we're also fortunate because we also got a lot of media mileage from blogs like Anton's blog, who also supported us. Media, tapos TV features, uh, print, no? And I guess nobody was doing it at the time. Uh, and we also tried, we also evolved over the last 15 years, no? Because the tours weren't really very static when we started it. A lot of it were edited out, a lot of it were added in. So, and we also were very, I guess, creative in its application because we didn't just do it as a food tour. We also did it for a lot of events kasi, no?
But that,
Corporate events.
I
May
think
kasama, ano pa nga, wedding proposal eh. No? So it was a very creative process for me doing not just the Binondo tour, no, in general, but the whole Old Manila Walks walking tour experience.
I think there's always in the soul of the Filipino to a return to Binondo somehow. Because Chinese food, Chinese culture is in us eh. As you said,
Mhm.
lahat tayo may blood transfusion. Ang dami kong tatanong ng mga pagkain na
Yan.
hinahanap ko. Mamaya,
Kailan ang huling punta mo sa Binondo, Nancy?
before I left, talagang
Okay.
nag 168 ako, tapos kumain
Okay.
ako, tapos nag-order ako ng sokwe soup. Nakalimutan ko na yung steak. Alam mo yon yung doon sa may pwede ka bumili ng talagang the freshest vegetables. You know who was always telling me about it? Si Gabi Soon of North Park.
I see.
Soon.
Alam mo, kahit naman even before I started doing the tours, Binondo was already a sort of a destination for mga foodies talaga.
Yes.
Bago pa nauso yung mga blogs, no? In fact, if you would read the old food magazine, which si Nancy, you were the editor ba? Or there, no?
Magazine ako, pero I also wrote before for food.
Yes, like all those food magazines, no? Food, Cook, Appetite, ganyan.
Yes.
I mean, ang daming features on Binondo, no, as a culinary destination.
Yes.
It's just that before us, I don't think anybody really did it professionally na maggawa ng tours specifically in Chinatown, no. So nagkataon lang nandoon ako.
Well, yung mga the older ones at napuntahan ko pa eh nung medyo original.
Siki.
I'm old.
Oo, yung mga Siki na abutan mo.
Siki.
Si Smart Pansiteria.
Smart. Meron pa yung beginning with T.
Wala na ba yung mga yan? Wala na ba?
Wala na. Wala na si Smart. Si Siki, narinig ko na lang din yan. Pero marami kasing mga, you know, the titos, the senior titos, no, na talagang yun yung memories nila na they would eat at those pansiterias talaga nung araw.
Yung coffee, yung may coffee, yung original, yung coffee nila na parang nasa North Park.
Lido.
Lido.
Si Lido, yeah. They have asado. Nagsara na din sila because of the pandemic, which is sad.
Yeah. Anyway, you know, Anton and Ivan, parate mga tanong diyan. Ano ang difference ng Holland at Poland? Tapos syempre yung hopia dati, you can buy it in the smaller stores, pero ngayon napunta na sa Engbitin, di ba? Naging iconic na 'yon. Tapos yung malagkit na nagawgaw na sauce. Alam mo yun? Yung parang pag inano mo, nilift mo, ang haba nung sauce, malagkit, made of gawgaw. Meron sila noon. Yung mga hinahanap ko.
No, wait, kasagot si Ivan. Ano nga ba? I-clarify mo nga yung mga.
Anong tanong? Tanong saan?
Poland versus Holland.
One is Dutch. The other one is Polish. No, corny. No. Ano yan? They have one ancestor, and they just basically ventured on their own. Yeah. And you know, I know a lot of this because I've interviewed a lot of these family businesses. And you know, some people who do tours of Binondo, they just go there to eat, look at the menu. But for me, it's very important that you know the history of these institutions, these families. In fact, yung Chinatown was my masteral thesis yan eh.
Oh, wow.
It was an academic exercise where we actually documented every possible restaurant at that time. Okay? Because there's such a thing called cultural mapping in our field. Yeah, cultural mapping. So we did that. I did that, and my subject was the whole Chinatown neighborhood, which seems small, but it's actually a major. It's a big area when you do that academic exercise.
Actually, I was even told na the usual setup of a store would be sa store yung ground floor, tapos the family will live in maybe 3 or 4 floors. Tapos
Yes.
second floor, opisina, third floor, yung
Mm-mm.
hanggang sa kanilang bedrooms na. And then
Mm-mm.
in some places pa, doon pa rin yung kanilang mga bodega, di ba?
Mm-mm.
And,
Pero medyo hindi na uso kasi ngayon yung ganyan. Only because, number one, wala na masyadong bahay na bato. Yeah,
okay.
you know, those old wooden houses. And number two, some businesses have grown um, so big that, you know, the owners would not want to smell what they're cooking every day na. You know, kasi nandyan lang. So, I mean, they would live in another place, ganon. But in the old days, siguro, tsaka dagdagan ko yung sinabi ni Nancy, no? Yung mga hopya nung araw, naka-eskaparate lang yun eh.
Yeah.
Diba? Alam niyo yung eskaparate, yung showcase.
Yeah.
Tapos nakalagay doon, tapos may wax paper, ganon.
Wax paper, yeah.
Until it was revolutionized by Eng Bitin, the likes of Eng Bitin, no? Sila yung nagpauso talaga. Another thing was that, you know, back then, those who only went, well, there were no vlogs at the time. So going on a food trip to Chinatown was not really a thing to do on a weekend. And you know, most people went to Binondo not to eat in Ongpin, except if you're the likes of Nancy or Cloud Tayag na talagang gala, na talagang pupunta doon. Most people went to Divisoria, di ba? So hindi siya destination nung araw. No?
You know why? One reason.
Why?
Sabi ng mga sosyal, kasi yung mga kalesa, wala pang catch ng poop nung kabayo. So sometimes lalakad ka, natatapakan mo.
Yan ang kulay ginto ng Ongpin. Nako, Nancy, lumaki ako sa amoy na ganyan. I'm not kidding. Kasi, you know, back in the 90s, 80s, there was much more kalesas than we have today. Diba? Wala pa namang mga e-trike nung araw eh. So, minsan, hindi nasasalo nung bag na yon yung dumi nila. So, nakikita mo sa kalye. Tapos pag natuyo siya, nagiging pulbos. Nagiging pulbos siya. So, I mean, I grew up in Binondo. So, you know, sometimes you would smell it to the point na parang dahil nasanay ka na, hindi na siya bad smelling. Parang wala kasi nandiyan, di ba? Yeah, but now it's very rare because wala na masyadong kalesa, sadly, no? Napalitan na ng e-trikes.
I used to romanticize the clippity-clack on the, kasi yung pavement nyo, ano pa adobe ba yan? Ano pa yan?
Meron kasing areas na may Piedra China.
Yun, Piedra China.
Now, Ivan, kwenta mo naman kami. You know, a lot of Filipinos love to go to Binondo. But of course, a lot of the personalities, ikaw ang hinahanap, di ba? Especially with Bourdain. Kwenta mo kami. Ano ba nagustuhan ni Bourdain or the other personalities? Or how does the people from outside look at Binondo? Kasi parang it's always marketed as the oldest Chinatown in the world, di ba? And what did they like in the food?
Well, I think the one thing that sets Binondo apart from the other old historic neighborhoods was that, for example, if you live in a gated community, or if you live in a place like Salcedo Village or Makati, where everything is sort of very sanitized, diba? You will find Binondo sort of romantic and exotic in a sense because it's one big market district, no? I mean, the buildings are old. Some of them are not kept very well, but it's very used. Gamit na gamit kasi nga may tindahan dyan forever, no? And then the streets are kind of like sort of free for all in the sense that you get a lot of street life. I mean, there's lots of naglalako, yung mga nagbebenta ng kung ano-ano, no? Some good, some not good, di ba? Buko, fishball, ganyan-ganyan. And coming from Alabang, you know, this is sort of something different.
Exotic.
Exotic even, di ba? And it's less hectic than Quiapo. You know, Quiapo is also like that. But Quiapo can be a bit overwhelming for some because it's always in steroids. Diba? Si Binondo, I mean, ganun siya, but it's not as hectic as Quiapo. And I also there's the I guess that the Chinese element then. If you're an average Pinoy, diba? I mean, this is very exotic for you. You know, all these old Chinese stuff that you probably do not see in your neighborhood. No, so kaya siya may appeal na ganun. Uh, Tapos, si Bourdain, okay, talk about Bourdain. Okay, he was, well, I didn't, when they called us up to do that shoot, I didn't know it was him, okay? I only knew the day before, the day before that we were shooting with him, okay? Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't a very big fan of Bourdain. I mean, I knew him, di ba? And I was used to doing TV, so for me, it was just one TV show. uh, and then we shot. In fact, I almost missed that shoot because I was coming from abroad, and my flight we got left by the airplane. So I had to book an
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, I had to book an extra ticket just to commit to that booking next day. Buti na lang I did, no? And so the next day I was able to
Buti na
shoot.
lang.
Oo. And it was very random. Whatever we kasi gusto ang team naman ni Bourdain ayaw niya ng ano eh. Ayaw niya ng he didn't like very sanitized places. So Binondo was perfect, no? So we ate fishball, we ate taho, we ate ano ba, pancit malabon, you know, not everything he liked because, you know, he is what it is. So, you know, I don't need to be apologetic with that. But we tried it anyway because that's what's there.
Yeah.
Diba? Yun naman talaga yung kinakain natin eh. Kaya masarap sa kanya o hindi, eh, yun talaga eh, diba? And then we went to Cubao to Farmers Market. So we shot in two places. Yun. Quite memorable. Very memorable, I would say.
Anong nagustuhan niya? May nagustuhan ba siya?
He liked the lumpia. Because we
lumpia?
had that Chinoy lumpia, okay?
Ah.
Yung binabalot, not lumpiang sariwa, not lumpiang ubod. He didn't like taho. Kasi matamis. He didn't like fishball, and that's understood. I mean, for me, that's, you know, nothing really surprising if he didn't like fishball. That's okay. And we also had ano pa bang kinain namin? Oh, we had siopaw asado, only because nakita lang din niya na nandyan. So we had siopaw asado, we had lumpia, yon. So we only shot siguro mga 1.5 hours in Binondo. Pero marami na kaming nakuha. And then we moved on to Farmers Market. Yeah.
Anton, meron ding story ang NB-10 for those who have not yet, hindi ba, they're related to the fire department. And I know for one thing, if I remember right, the Chinese fire department is the most reliable of all the fire departments. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, they're not related to the fire department, but meron kasing there's an institution, the institution of volunteer firefighting in the country started in Binondo. Okay, kasi in the 60s we had big fires in Binondo, and there was not really enough government fire trucks, diba? I mean, masusunugan ka na nga, tapos hihingian ka pa para patayin yung apoy. So syempre, diba? Sa inis ng mga tao, ng mga negosyo doon, sabi nila, you know what? If we cannot rely on our government fire trucks, then we'll just create our own. And so they donated and bought fire trucks initially to serve the community. And eventually this institution, this very Chinoy institution, I must emphasize, kasi it started really in Chinatown, grew beyond Binondo and was eventually adopted in Chinese communities throughout the country. Kaya meron din sa Davao, di ba? Wherever you have Chinoys, may bombero yan. Sa Cebu, sa Naga, ganyan. Now, si Eng Bitin, he has two passions in life, the owner. He is a very astute businessman selling pastries, and he's also a volunteer fire brigade. Volunteer in his younger days. So nag-volunteer talaga siya. As in, nagpapatay ng apoy.
Yeah.
So he attributes partly his success because of his work in the volunteer fire brigade. Now, because that's where he was discovered kasi, no, in a feature in a fire brigade, which eventually led to him being featured as a hopya businessman. Yun. Tapos lumaki yung business niya. So may utang na loob siya sa bombero.
Okay.
Yun.
I was also, before that, I was also telling Anton that ano naman to, hindi to pagkain, pero one of the most expensive square by the square meters is Binondo property, di ba? I
Di
heard.
na.
Very, very expensive.
No
Parang
na.
almost
Kano na
like Forbes Park.
No na. Kasi, at that time, there was no BGC. Diba? Ngayon, we have BGC, we have Makati. There are areas in Binondo which are more expensive because it's commercial. And, generally, commercial areas are more expensive, diba? But I wouldn't say it's the most, it's a dated belief.
Oh, okay.
I don't think
Magkano na ba
it's
ngayon?
true
Magkano
anymore.
per square sa Binondo?
Depends sa area kasi. Depende. But Binondo kasi is commercial district. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's a commercial district. So may mga kalye na maraming bangko, so obviously it's priced, but I don't think it's any higher than other areas, business
There
centers
was one
in the metropolis.
one of my friends said their property was bought for 250,000 per square.
Wow, talaga.
Maliit lang
Okay.
yun. 100 square
Okay.
meters lang.
Right. Well, I wouldn't be surprised, but I wouldn't say it's the most expensive in the country.
Oh, all
Yeah,
right.
because there are more developments these days, no?
Okay.
All right.
We'll go to the photos to provide more context from Ivan. Mga shinare ni
Anton,
Ivan.
ikaw ba pupunta ka ba ng Binondo nung bata ka?
Hindi, actually.
Hindi masyado.
Ngayon na lang.
See?
When I started Our Awesome Planet lang.
Yeah.
Makilala lang tayo, dun lang.
Oo. See, kasi Nancy, here's the thing, no? Like, there's a generation of Manileños, so I say people who live in Metro Manila, that do not have memories of Chinatown na. Like si Anton, he probably grew up in, I don't know, Quezon City. At saka yung generation kasi natin, Anton, may malls na. Not unlike the older days na nung araw na maraming attachment kasi yung magulang nagtrabaho sa eskolta.
Oo,
diba?
Yung mom ko nag-work sa eskolta sa PND.
Yun. So,
pero hanggang eskolta lang, hindi kami yung Binondo.
Tinan mo, hindi mo naisip na ano pala siya, marami palang makainan doon.
Oo, marami pala.
Oo.
Actually, maraming families from Binondo lumipat to Quezon City. Ang sabi nila, Quezon City, maraming rolling na mga gano'n na like the dragon, di ba? Kaya sa mga area ng Araneta,
Cordillera, mga Banawe. Yeah. So those are basically in the 60s kasi Binondo was already crowded. It's been there for 400 years. So a lot of the I guess more forward-thinking Chinoys, they left the confines of Chinatown.
Yeah.
So they moved to Banawe and eventually Green Hills, diba? Wilson, ganyan. So marami din nag-iwan sa Binondo, no? I mean, within the community nga, there's sort of a joke between the difference between Binondo folks and Green Hills folks, diba? Green Hills Chinoys. Hindi, syempre, mga taga-Greens, mga Inglesero, di ba? yung mga sa Binondo, hindi, no? Kasi they speak Tagalog or Chinese. I guess they're more conservative in that sense, no? But those Green Hills folks, iba din ang taste nila, di ba? So, may subculture dyan.
Okay. Sige, let's share the photos, no? Maybe, Ivan, if you can capture some of these.
Okay. Oh, this is our latest book. Most people think I just do Chinatown stuff, but I really do a lot of heritage stuff. In fact, I did a book on Art Deco, which is 1930s design and heritage. So I came up with a book in 2020, and we were able to release it 1 month before the world turned upside down. And that's it. That's at the Rizal Stadium.
Oh,
yeah. So naka 1930s
Wow,
costume kasi
outfit.
nga the book is 1930s design.
Very nice.
Mga Metropolitan Theater, ganyan. That's one of my passions as well, no. Educating people on 1930s design heritage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Andun pa ba yung mural ng Metropolitan Theater? Andun pa?
Nandyan pa naman, but it's a replica. That's that is Rizal Stadium where we launched the book.
Oh, okay.
That's our architect Gerard Lico. He's a
Yeah.
very prolific architectural historian from UP. So he
Uh-huh.
was my co-author.
Co-author kayo. Okay.
Yes.
Nice. Okay.
Anton, ikaw, di ba, Lasal ka? Pareho tayo. Hindi naman tayo
Oo.
nagkakalayo dyan eh. Sa Rizal Stadium.
1920s din yan, di ba?
1934. It's 1934, yeah.
1930.
Yes. So that's one of my passions as well, no? Art Deco, Filipino Art Deco design. I've done talks on the topic from Shanghai to
How would you describe it
Chicago.
for
Yeah.
people asking? Oh, how would you describe it? Art Deco.
Well, it's a particular design that touched architecture, graphic design, ganyan, in the 1930s, which is basically the Commonwealth period of our history. So there are a lot of elements related to that, no? And I find joy in documenting and telling the histories behind these buildings from that particular era.
May I ask, who are the sources of your stories? Are they really the old Chinese na mga first generation, second generation?
Sa Chinatown, I talked to a lot of the owners. Some of them second generation na, they will pass. Some of them actually first. I've talked to some first, but mostly second generations. Kasi sila yung nandyan pa, di ba? And a lot of these are oral histories.
Yeah.
Like for example, yung mga stories ng mga Holland, Poland, and Bitin, hindi naman yan archival di ba? I mean, ngayon, you can find it in certain sources, but for the longest time, these were all oral histories of Mr. Chua, Mr. Tan,
Yeah.
di ba? Ang maganda sa kanila, minsan kasi sa mga tindahan na to, yung nagbabantay, nagkakahera, si Mrs. ni may-ari, di ba? O kaya si anak. So, sa sobrang dalas ko minsan, minsan wala akong magawa, pupunta na ako doon, magtatambay lang, kwentuhan lang kami. No? Kwentuhan lang. So, makwento naman sila kasi, they see me as someone who is from here, from there, and who helps them in their business. Because, our tourists contribute to the local economy. Di ba?
Very nice. Very
Okay. Next. Ito, medyo
alam ko to, Anton. This is our, Nancy, one of the things that came as a result of our Old Manila Walks was that we actually ran we expanded to doing provincial tours with Anton. Okay, so we had a tour outfit called Ultimate Philippines Tours, which ran for 5 years siguro, no, Anton? 5 years.
Oh, 5 years din po. Until nagtawa tayo sa mga tours.
Hanggang sa nagtawa kami, napagod kami. So that's me, Anton, Spanky, and Ivan Henares. So we have different backgrounds, no? Si Spanky PR, si Anton is tech, like I'm tourism, si Ivan is academe. So we banded together and we created this wicked and very, very bespoke culinary tours around the country. So we were able to do tours to Batanes, culinary tours to Batanes, bago pa nauso yun.
Ganda. Ganda yung Batanes, no? Batanes.
Nagsawa kami sa Batanes, Nancy, because of that tour.
Gaano kalaki pa yung eroplano nyo noon?
Maliliit lang.
Maliliit na naman, but it's we stayed at the best place, 'di ba? Si Fundacion Pasita pa. And then we did Pampanga, we did Quezon. We were bringing
Pahiyas, diba?
Oo.
Pahiyas, nandun tayo.
Yeah, we had a very, very wicked Pampanga tour which lasted from
Why?
11 a.m. to 12 midnight. It's super
Wow.
long.
Ultimate ano
Mm-mm.
yun, food trip yun, no?
Yes, kasi ano, kasabay nung Ligligang Parul, yung
Ah,
the Parul Festival. And we were bringing busloads of very, very excited and very into food tours, very into food groups to Cloud Tayag's place. As in, pupunuin namin yun. Di ba? So, may mga, yeah, those were the days. But we stopped it after 5 years siguro kasi napagod na kami. And, you know, we
Oo.
moved on to other things. But those were good memories.
Ganda, asaya nun eh.
Oo.
Meron pa tayo
Yung
hot air balloon, di ba? Minsan.
yes, may hot air balloon pa kami sa Pampanga.
oh yeah, I
Oo.
saw
But
that. I saw
ano
that.
siya eh, it's bespoke kasi, you know, we really pulled all the stuff. We really pulled a lot of strings to get experiences from from people that you probably wouldn't get if you did it on your own. No, may mga ganun kami. I mean, we were able to host lunches in a cove in Batanes. Di ba?
Oo.
We were serving them mga uvod balls, kung ano-ano mga pagkain ng Ibatan, di ba? Nasa cove, di ba?
Shouldn't that be? Shouldn't you guys continue that? I don't know how, but you know, that's what we want.
Oo,
Maybe we'll have a reunion tour.
reunion
Wow!
tour.
Yes,
Oo.
yes.
Maganda siya, but nakakapagod. As in, nakakapagod talaga.
Pero ang
Okay.
saya, every time, ang saya.
Oh,
Yes. Masaya siya, no? So that was good memories. Thank you for that, Anton.
Thank you also. Okay. Next.
Ano pa?
Kahit yung
Wala. Ito, ano lang
recent.
yan, profile pic for, this was taken in Havana, Cuba.
oh yan?
Yes, that's me. I went to
Wow.
Havana, which is
How
lovely.
many pounds were you then? Grabe.
This is like, ano lang to, mga 3-4 years ago, I think. I visited Cuba for 1 week, which was really memorable as well. No, because Cuba is not a very easy place to visit.
Yes.
And we had, I found out there was no arroz a la cubana. Walang arroz a la cubana sa Havana.
Tayo ba
At
yung
mahina ang
nag-invento?
internet. Ha?
Tayo ba nag-invento nun? Pilipino?
Sa tingin ko, oo. Baka
Okay.
dito na lang siya. Oo. But you know, I never grew up eating arroz a la cubana. I don't know why. Hindi uso sa pamilya namin.
Sarap, may
Oo.
itlog. Okay.
May saging, di ba? This one was one of our last tours before the world shut down.
Ang dami. Dami nila.
Yeah. It's the Binondo food walk. But you notice we have pakulo. It's a birthday tour. It's
Kaya
a 40th. Nakapula. Tsaka may dragon. Di ba? Kasi wala lang pakulo.
Ayun, okay.
It was a 40th birthday tour. And the whole idea being, instead of going out to eat, di ba, why don't we just do a food tour and make it a little bit more special? And again, it goes back to what I was saying, that the tours that we do are not just ordinary tours. I mean, they're really creative events to give memories and to have fun, diba? So
I think it's more like an enrichment.
Yes. At the same time, we hit our goals of education, of of heritage, of letting people know something about the community and the importance of the heritage in the area. Ganyan. At the same time, also having fun, diba? And eating well.
Yeah. Maybe you can have a small pamphlet like a walking tour na ano.
Oh, we have that. May map version pa nga kami. May Binondo food walk map kami na pinamimigay. Oo. I
need that.
So Ivan, ano nangyari na ngayon with what's the latest during this pandemic?
And the tours? It's been on and off. I mean, we're still here. We're still hoping to get back, but at this point, it's not like before COVID, where we actually, it was really the main thing that I did most of the time. Now it's just a footnote of my new pivoted lifestyle. But I still like to do it, and that's why I'm planning to still do it as long as we can, and as long as people are or would actually want to do it or experience it.
So, what do you do now kung hindi tours? Ano,
Ah,
architecture, what
I
happened
do
during
a lot. Okay, I do a lot of stuff for the parents. Admin stuff, uh, stuff that were supposed to be done but has not been done yet. Paperwork, ganyan. But I'm also writing a book.
Hmm.
Wow.
On
Yeah,
what?
About
it's
what? About what?
it's a cultural guide to Manila. So
Okay.
it's like a guidebook on the city, but more focused on the heritage, like the buildings, the history, because you don't really get that in a regular Lonely Planet guidebook. So
Yeah.
ito parang insider tour of the city. If you are inclined with mga history and heritage, ganyan.
Sana
Yun.
ma-interview mo si Chona Trinidad.
Sino
Bakit?
siya?
Yung
Siya,
si Jonathan.
I'll give it to you later. Pag ano.
Okay.
Siya yung laman ng ano yan, laman ng Quiapo yan eh.
Okay. Ayan o, tinan mo, mas maganda na yung picture. Di ba?
Ayan.
Meron pa kaming, nagtawag pa ako ng lion dance dyan. Kasi birthday, di ba? Masaya.
Yeah.
Tapos, we had loot bags, ganyan. It was fun. I mean, I think it was very good experience for all of those who joined. And then the world turned upside down after.
That
Yeah.
was your birthday. That was your birthday tour?
No, that was somebody else's birthday.
Okay.
This is somebody else's birthday party. Okay? So imbis na kumain sa labas lang, kumain lang sa anong restaurant diyan. 'Di ba? I mean, nag-walking tour naman sa may pagkain naman, 'di ba? But meron ding shopping, meron ding halakhakan, meron ding usap, meron ding lakad, tsaka may pakulo, may giveaway, may lion dance. So, masaya.
So memorable pala yung last ano mo
One of the last, because
One
we
of the
also
last.
did mga reunion tours. We did a lot of reunion tours for mga, let's say, class of 50 years of high school. Diba?
Yeah.
Reunion. Mga ganyan, marami kami gano'n, no? Or 25 years of college, ganyan. We also did corporate tours for companies, ganyan. Oh yeah, that's my photo with the late Anthony Bourdain. This is in farmers market. Yeah, where we had adobong hipon. I think we also had ginataang alimango, which he liked,
Nagustuhan niya?
which I chose. Ako kasi nag-curate nung kakainin niya. And the whole idea in farmers market was that since he's not going to be able to visit the entire Philippines, I'll just pick one dish from very specific regions. That's why I had a Bicol dish, diba? I had an Ampalaya dish from Ilocos, and then adobo is sort of like everywhere. So yun yung what I tried to showcase. And then the Binondo part, since it's in Binondo, so again, it was very spontaneous. Dami nag-bash nun eh. Lumabas sa YouTube. bakit hindi kumain sa ganito? Bakit hindi kumain sa ganyan? We only had like one day to shoot. Oh, 'di ba? So you can only fit so much, 'di ba? Oo, dami nag-bash yun.
Oo, ang dami nga. Ito. Ano to?
Ito, okay. Last year we did when the world shut down because of the pandemic, people were saying, why don't you do a virtual food tour?
Yeah.
And we actually did. That was our only virtual food tour. But we only did it once for a corporate entity company because it's not easy to do a virtual food tour. I mean, logistically, it takes you like one day to prepare, and then the deliveries, and then yung pagkain minsan dumating sa kanila, hindi na mainit. Alam mo yun, iba na ganon. So we didn't push through it. No, we only did it like one time. No, but we tried it anyway, and they were happy. So that was the virtual Binondo food walk, which we did in last year in 2021. Yan. So live
Nice.
pa din ang live pa din yung
Pagkain.
hindi, live pa din yung tour. I mean, for me, nothing can really replace the live tour because it's not just eating. You're in the very place you smell, you walk, you
Yes,
see, you hear,
you
diba?
hear.
And yes, and the whole sensory experience of doing a food tour, you cannot get it in a virtual tour, diba?
Okay.
Um,
Oh.
this one is an award that I got from the city government of
Mm-hmm.
Manila. So we were awarded the Patnubay ng Sining awards, which is given to Manileños who contributed something. And I got an award for culture. I think this was 2017 yata ito. Yeah, together with Boots Anson Roa and Cecile Girote Alvarez. Kasama ko rin dyan si Christian Bautista. Yeah.
Ano yung Ivan, ano yung painting sa likod that looks
That's Botong Francisco.
yun?
That's in Manila City Hall.
Aha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I later found out that this award were also given to national artists. No, like for example, si Pablo Antonio, eventually would become a national artist. Parang nakakuha mo sila ng award na to, and then they became national artists, no?
Wow.
Wow.
So it's given by the city government, and thankfully, well, they appreciated what I do. I did for at least with Old Manila Walks. So, yeah, meron tayong award dyan.
Galing. You are, dapat naman, well-deserved naman, Ivan.
Galing.
Thank you.
So that's the last photo. Now, yeah, that's the last photo. Pero Ivan, I wanted to ask, looking forward to 2022, no? Are more and more people going back to Binondo ba? O paano na? Or more people are avoiding Binondo? You said a lot of restaurants closed. What happened to Binondo post, this past 2 years?
Wait, can I attach a question there before anything? Would you like to preserve the ambience now of like 20 years ago, or would you welcome the modernization of Binondo?
Oo, parang Singapore, modern na Chinatown Singapore. Ano mo dyan?
Well, I like to keep a lot of the relevant things in Binondo, no? Like for example, the old street names, diba?
Yes.
Only because not just because I'm romantic. I mean, I like history, but changing a street name is a big headache to business owners. So you have to print your receipts. You have to, apart from losing the heritage, I mean, the whole practicality of it. Like if you live there, it's not a very nice thing, no. I like to keep the ambience not in a very frozen manner. Of course, I like Binondo to evolve, but how it evolves, that's the big question, no? Because as I speak, a lot of the older buildings are being torn down. And when you tear down a lot of these older buildings, it takes away the old businesses there.
Yep.
Okay? The mom and pop stores which has been there for decades, na binibilhan mo ng champoy or ng tingi, di ba? You develop relationships with these places. And once you put it in a high rise, of course it's not the same, no? And another thing with high rises, there's already so much high rises in Binondo. And masikip yung daan eh. I mean, it's really a place not built for BGC type development, di ba? So for me, I think, I mean, talking about Singapore, no, Anton, Singapore is it's a good model for development because they were able to keep their old districts. Although it's a bit gentrified, no? Like for example, if you go to Chinatown, it's gentrified na talaga. But at least nandiyan pa yung mga lumang buildings, di ba? I mean, what they had 100 years ago, they were able to preserve. Of course, the businesses also need to be competitive, but they cannot not change. Otherwise, they will die. No. So for me, I like to keep the essential parts and then those that can be improved should be improved, like the lighting, for example, di ba? Or maybe parking system, di ba?
Yeah.
Kasi if people are going there na, might as well have a better parking system, ganon. And I like to keep the vibe of the place. Yung tipong pagbaba mo, lahat nandiyan na. 'Di ba? It's very convenient kasi may tindahan na nagbebenta diyan ng taho, may nagbebenta diyan ng burong mustasa, 'di ba? Gusto mo ng grocery, punta ka lang doon, 'di ba? Gusto mo ng ganito, punta ka lang diyan, pwedeng. And then paggabi, pwede ka pang kumain kasi bukas ng hanggang 10:00 yung mga kainan. I think those are nice qualities for a place to have, no? If only it was cleaner, it was only more lighted, di ba?
But you know what? I feel safer in Binondo than in Quiapo.
Yes, yes. Only because Binondo is less, has less people. Sa Quiapo kasi, lahat talaga nandoon. As in, lahat, no? So, I was in Quiapo lang a few days ago on a Sunday morning. I mean, I enjoyed, because I did an errand, so I had a walk around it. So, I sort of tried to get a feel of the place. Ang dami talagang tao. So some people can can manage that type of crowd. Others may not, 'di ba? Because ang daming ang tao. Tapos yung ibang tao pa doon, alam mo na, yung iba medyo dugyot, 'di ba? I won't say all, no, but there are certain types of, I guess, street people, no. But yeah, that's true, no. That's the general impression, Nancy, that Binondo is probably a little bit less schizophrenic than than Quiapo, no? But ay, maraming mahilig sa Quiapo, yung mga mahilig sa beads.
Oh.
Ano may mga beads, mahilig dinadayo nila ang Quiapo.
Tsaka yung yung mabibili mo yung pinakamagandang itlog na pula, yung pamantika. Doon sa may
Okay, okay.
Dati, di ba,
Yeah.
mga gadgets, pero wala na yung mga gadgets, nasa online na yung mga ano.
Oh, raon, ganon. Tapos marami sa Quiapo,
yung mga bedtime story. Hindi alam
Nancy,
ni yun.
nakapunta ka na ba ng the Muslim area in Quiapo?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, that I think could be very promising if only that area could be a little bit cleaner and more organized.
And safer.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Safe naman siya pag sanay ka.
Oh, hindi, but I think women need a guide. Hindi pwedeng basta babae lang papasok doon eh. We had to be with the guide. Tapos pinasok pa kami ng
ng hibelo.
Oo.
Yeah, but I mean, I find it fascinating because when I went to Quiapo a few days ago, just a few steps after Quiapo, once you go in Ongpin, iba na naman yung feeling, 'di ba? And I think that's the whole essence of the old Manila area. No, it's really people of different ethnicities, living there, staying there, migrating there at one point, and making the place their own, bringing their food, their culture. Yon, no? Kasi sa Quiapo is also immigrant community, di ba? Mga Mindanaoans, no? And the food is nice.
Yeah. So, ako, I have a last question and then Nancy siguro last question. Yung Ivan, we've seen Manila grow, no, throughout the years, especially during this pandemic also. And you're very passionate about all of your projects. Any advice to, the younger generation? Kasi medyo tumatanda na rin tayo. And the younger generation getting into cultural heritage, getting into culinary food. Ano ba? Are they taking this on or or hindi? Any advice to this next generation?
Well, for me, in general, I mean, because the whole Old Manila Walks experience, I mean, work that I did was all about telling stories. It's all about sharing personal experiences, sharing my passions and on heritage, culture, history. So I guess for the younger ones, this is a very general statement, but I think if you're going into something that's service related, be it food, be it tourism, it would be nice to show your sincerity and your passion in the product that you carry, no? Uh, because it will eventually show with, I mean, how we lasted for this long. It's not always easy, when we did it, but sometimes it's just the passion which just takes you on a very bad day. Diba? When you have a very bad day, okay, I mean, kasi gusto mo yung ginagawa mo, that's why you can pull through, diba? And this goes, I think, with every service related business out there. I'm tourism. Most of your viewers are probably into food, diba? Restaurants, ganyan, no? So bring your sincerity, bring your passion to what you do. So that will really help a lot.
Now, I think what you're doing is you're putting a sense of history and culture in every plate of food that comes from Binondo or every thought, which is good. Kasi
Yeah.
ngayon, nasa fourth generation na yata yung mga Chinese dyan. And they're not there
Mhm.
anymore, no? They're already
Yeah.
in Green Hills,
Corinthian Gardens.
Green Meadows, yung
Green
mga,
Meadow sa
yeah.
mm.
And the uncle and the ama are already very
Yeah,
old.
right.
So,
Yeah. But there are new immigrants coming in. Yung mga sa 168, 'di ba? Yeah,
Chinese talaga.
yeah. Chinese like mainlanders na nagpupunta rito. Uh so that's a new chapter,
Does
'di
that
ba?
mean that they
In
will have families here already also? And ano?
Yeah. Yeah,
Ah,
oo. So, some of their kids, they go to local Chinese schools na, ganyan, no? So that's another chapter. I mean, I could go on, but it's, the whole story of the Chinese community in Manila. It's always um, people coming, people leaving, and then another group of immigrants coming again to Binondo. No, so it's a cycle of people moving around to the place.
yeah.
Ganon.
Ano lang, sometimes, unlike me, no? I'm also
Mm-mm.
partly Chinese. Tansing ko rin
Mm-hmm.
yung middle name ko. Pero, minsan nawawala yung pagka-Filipino. The only
Mm-hmm.
Filipino iconic thing I would say in is the saint.
Mm-hmm.
Si Saint sino yun yung the saint the young saint
Luis.
si
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo.
Lorenzo
Parang,
Ruiz.
parang
Okay.
everything else is Chinese. I
Mm-hmm.
do not see a Tagalog thing
Mm-mm. Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
maybe that's good and maybe that's not also good. Maybe it's good to have pure Chinese culture there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I wouldn't say it's ano naman. It's not about. I mean, for me, it's not about purity. It's more because sometimes we are so we're so into defining like bloodlines that we forget that culture is not a static thing, 'di ba? Culture changes, 'di ba? Culture evolves, 'di ba? So it's not even in the bloodlines. It's the way of life because
Yes.
I know people who are mestizong inchik, no? Like they're half Chinese, but they they grew up in an environment na they were still in touch with with certain elements of their ancestors. I mean, they still spoke the language for one, no?
Uh-huh.
Iba naman sobrang pure Chinese as in, but since they grew up outside Binondo, they don't know the heritage. They don't know the language, diba? So I think the environment really is a big factor, not just bloodlines. Mm-mm.
Mhm. Important yun. Talagang that's very nice to preserve it. You're
Where's
doing,
your roots, Nancy?
ha?
Saan ang roots mo?
You know, hindi namin masyadong alam. Basta,
No, I mean roots dito sa atin.
Manila.
Maynila.
Ay,
Maynila.
Manila talaga. Okay.
Oroquieta.
Walang probinsya?
Oroquieta.
Wala. Oh, Oroquieta. I know that
Yeah.
street. But wala kang probinsya.
Tagalog kami. Wala.
Tagalog na Tagalog. Not even
Yes.
Bulacan.
the Tansinko side, my grandmother's Tansinko side, my mother's side, Oroquieta. Yung
Okay,
Reyes
okay.
side, Malabon.
Si Rage
Tagalog
din.
talaga.
Si Rage, Oroquieta.
Talaga?
Oroquieta.
Oh.
That's in Santa Cruz.
Sa Bamban. Yun ang original na mga yung mga clothes, ng mga costume.
Ukay-ukay.
Ukay-ukay.
Bambang.
Bambang.
Yes. So there, that's my life.
All right. Thank you. Thank you
But
very much.
It's evolving.
It's
Because
evolving,
now
yes.
you're doing the whole Manila na.
Na matagal na. Ever since talaga, it's
book.
yeah. You know, people associate me with Binondo, but I really do the whole Manila experience. So we also do tours of Intramuros, diba? We also do tours of Malate. We've done tours of Malate, but very specific themes on heritage. Na-associate lang sa akin si Binondo kasi in-chick ako. Yeah. Tsaka siya yung medyo sumikat, di ba? Yung ibang tours is, you know, so many people does Intramuros tours, right? Okay. But we also do it. It's part of our story.
I think you should continue that.
Yes, we will.
All right. Thank you, Ivan. Any final message for this new year? New Year. What's your New Year message?
Can you say it in Chinese? Can you say part of it in Chinese?
Okay. Chok tai ke sini kwai lok, sin te kien kong, ka ting ping an ban si rui. Lalim ba? Hindi lang kong hey fat choy. No, I basically greeted everyone happy Chinese New Year. May all your wishes come true. May your families have peace. May you have good health and good stuff for the year of the tiger. Well, my wish for everyone, Anton and Nancy and everyone, is that 2002 will be better, no matter how small, than the previous year, and that you will roar like a tiger.
Yes.
Roar like a tiger. Hindi naman kuting, kahit isang roar lang.
Tiger na.
Tiger.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for inspiring us.
You're welcome. Yeah, please log on to our website for tours. It's oldmanilawalks.com, or just find us in Facebook. I mean, we're still doing the tours, not as often as we want to, but it's still there.
All right.
Maraming salamat. Thank you, Ivan. Guys, please like and share this video. Subscribe to our awesome planet. And share this with your family and friends who are interested into Binondo and Manila culture. Maraming salamat, Ivan, Mandy.
Thank you.
Yonghe Wachai.
Yonghe Wachai.
Live an awesome life, guys. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Can you do a short